What other instructors? Go ahead, Jack.
I can do a little on Larry.
Oh, that'd be great.
I'm Jack Hall. I'm Larry's little brother.
Hey.
Much of you knew Larry. I didn't know hardly any of you except Gene. Larry passed away 4 years ago of, as Gene said, acute diabetes, I think is the right way to say it. Didn't want to treat it, and so therefore it got worse very fast. But Larry always had a fond heart for Valpo Tech, as many of you know. And some of you have shared stories with me about Larry. I'll get on the net and on the Facebook. I'm sorry, I've avoided that because I became a teacher also, like Larry, or Larry like me, I think is really the route to win. And I taught in Illinois. We shared a lot about students, just so that you know Tech lives. When I moved to Illinois, I started out at General Tell in Fort Wayne, went to Martin Marietta, Denver Aerospace, and I went through the crash of the aerospace industry and survived it, and took this job on a dare teaching. Not, my wife was the teacher, I wasn't, and she laughed at me, but I thought, well, it'll look good on the resume for the next job. Remember how Patton used to tell us, always take that job that gets you the next job? Okay. And I fell in love teaching because it was a system that was exactly like Tech. It was all of us that were shop students who didn't know how to learn, who couldn't make it into universities. We were all in the same boat, fellas, whether we liked to admit it or not. And I had students that were destined to be hamburger flippers, and I turned them into careers for GE and several other places, and built a reputation at our school similar, not as good as what Tech had, but I did have a lot of businesses and industries that were grabbing my graduates. And Larry watched me as it grew, and I guess it culminated a few years ago after I retired. One of the guys that took over in my program called me back to teach for him while he went to New Orleans to do some volunteer work after the hurricane. And he didn't tell me what I was teaching, and the day before I called him, day before he was leaving, I called him and I said, what the hell am I supposed to do for your classes? And he says, oh, they're classes that you already wrote, so just do whatever you want. And Larry was kind of that way too, I'm sure, with you guys. I got to tell you one funny story on Larry while we're all together. And George, I knew Larry taught, some of you had him for transmission lines with Thurman. And I knew Larry's personality extremely well. And I called George one time, and I guess most of you by now know Larry didn't keep records. He went down to records office and got the folders out, and whatever you guys got in the other courses, you got from him, plus the final exam. He did great. He did great in the final exam. And knowing all this, I called George one time, way ahead of time. I said, Larry got his final written yet? Oh, yeah. And I said, good. Slip a copy out. Have your wife drive you to Kankakee. I'll meet you. We had a restaurant down there. I'll buy you a dinner while I fill out his exam. And I filled out his exam out of Thurman. Of course, I knew Larry. I knew what questions he was going to ask. I knew where the keys were in the book. And I filled it all out, basically letter perfect. I guess it was letter perfect. And I signed it Horace McNewer. And I don't know whether any of you guys ever heard the story about Horace or not, but George went back and he slipped it back in the stack of papers after Larry gave the final, and I don't remember what year this was, I'm sorry. But Larry graded it and Horace got an A. And so he's down at the office with Carrie and Patton putting grades on the old folder system, if you remember that. And he can't find Horace's folder. Naturally. And pretty soon Patton yells out at him, what's the matter, Larry? He says, I can't find this kid, and he's super smart. He got 8's my final exam. Patton says, oh, he's out there somewhere. I saw it a little while ago. By then, everybody in the factory pretty well knew what was happening. Finally, Patton came out and slipped another folder out there, filled out, looked good, looked real. Larry put a grade on it, and to the date of his death, he never knew I did that to him. Horace still survives. Now, the story of that goes on further. In a school I was working in, had a lousy security system on their computer records, and I enrolled Horace McMillan with a social security number 123456789. No flags came up. Birth date of July 4th, 1776. No flags. And then I started enrolling him in courses in teachers that didn't pay attention, didn't grade, and I had him completed with 48 semester hours of coursework. And then I thought I might get in trouble if they ever discover this, so I deleted him out of the system before he graduated. Some of those little things I got from Larry, to be honest with you, and I'm sure he did some tricks like that too. Larry kind of kept track of me. I did coursework, of course, here. Purdue, got my other coursework to get a BS degree in '69. And went to, I worked at Gentel in Fort Wayne until that point, then went to aerospace in Denver, came back to teaching, and spent 34 years in educational system at a little place called Illinois Central College. It only has 18,000 students, so it's not a real big school. But then I taught for the University of Illinois and for Illinois State University simultaneously because they didn't have a publish or perish rule. You couldn't make a living on teacher salary. If you guys don't remember, teachers are on a lockstep system doing good merit. But I came out of aerospace with 3,800 man hours and a 2,000 man hour year, and that's why I left. I said if I got that much ambition, I could do it something else. Like Larry, I had developed a kidney disease and spent 6 years on dialysis, but it was a different disease than Larry's. It was called polycystic kidney. It's a genetic defect. And eventually got a transplant from my wife, we matched, and that's 12 years ago. Knock on wood, and I'm still running textbook perfect, so we're not too worried about that. And I got to the